Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from the book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya by His Divine Grace Vishwaguru Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Chapter 29, entitled Pure Love for Krishna. Encouraged by Lord Chaitanya to proceed further, Ramananda Raya said that the fraternal relationship with Lord Krishna is on an equal is on an even higher transcendental plane. In this way, Ramananda Raya points out that when the relationship with Krishna increases in affection, the mood of fear and the consciousness of the superiority of the Supreme Lord diminish. At this point, the mood of faith increases, and this faith is called friendship. In the fraternal relationship, there is a sense of equality between Krishna and his friends. In this regard, Ramananda Raya quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 12, verse 11, in which Shukadev Goswami describes Lord Krishna's lunch with his friends in the forest. Lord Krishna and his friends went to the forest to play with the cows, and it is said that the boys who accompanied Krishna enjoyed transcendental friendship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is considered to be the impersonal Brahman by great sages, the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the devotees, and an ordinary human being by common men. Lord Chaitanya appreciated this statement very much, yet he said, "You can go even further." Being so requested, Ramananda Raya then stated that the paternal relationship with Krishna is a still higher transcendental position. When the affection of the fraternal relationship increases, it develops into the paternal relationship that is found between father and son. Regarding this, Ramananda Raya quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 8, verse 46, wherein Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami about the magnitude of righteous activity performed by Yashoda, the mother of Krishna, enabling her to be called mother, and her breasts being sucked by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He also quoted another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 9, verse 20, in which it is stated that Yashoda received such incomparable mercy from the Supreme Personality of Godhead that it cannot even be compared to the mercy received by Brahma, the first created living being, or by Lord Shiva, or even by the goddess of fortune Lakshmi, who is always situated on the chest of Lord Vishnu. Lord Chaitanya then asked Ramananda Raya to proceed further in order to come to the point of conjugal love. Understanding the mind of Lord Chaitanya, Ramananda Raya immediately answered that it was indeed conjugal love with Krishna that constituted the highest relationship. In other words, intimate relationships with Krishna develop from an ordinary conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the conception of master and servant, and when this becomes confidential, it develops into a friendly relationship. And when this relationship further develops, it becomes paternal. And when this develops to the highest point of love and affection, it is known as conjugal love with the Supreme Lord. Ramananda Raya quoted another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 47, verse 60, stating that the transcendental mode of ecstasy exhibited during the Rasa dance between the gopis and Krishna was never relished even by the goddess of fortune, who is always situated on the chest of the Lord in the spiritual kingdom. And what to speak of the experience of ordinary women? Ramananda Raya then explained the gradual process by which pure love for Krishna is developed. He pointed out that the living entity is related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of the relationships just suitable for him. Actually, relationships with the Supreme Lord begin with the master and servant relationship and further develop into friendship, paternal love, and conjugal love. One who attains his particular relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be known to be in the best relationship for him. But when these transcendental relationships are studied, it can be it can be seen that the neutral stage of realization or Brahma Bhuta is the first. When one accepts the Lord as master and himself as servant, the relationship develops. And it develops further when one becomes a friend of the Supreme Lord. And yet, still further, when one becomes a father. Thus, the relationship advances from friendship to paternal love and finally to conjugal love, which is the supreme relationship with the Lord. Self realization in the relation as servitor is certainly transcendental, and when a sense of fraternity is added, the relationship develops. As affection increases, this relationship develops into paternity and conjugal love. Ramananda Raya quoted a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.5.38, stating that spiritual affection for the Supreme Lord is transcendental in all cases, but the individual devotee has a specific aptitude for a particular relationship, and that relationship is more relishable for him than the others. Such transcendental relationships with the Supreme Lord cannot be manufactured by the mental concoctions of pseudo devotees. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.101, Rupa Goswami has stated that devotional service that makes no reference to Vedic scriptures or Vedic literatures and that does not follow the principles set forth therein can never be approved. Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj has also remarked that professional spiritual masters, professional Bhagavatam reciters, professional Kirtan performers, and those engaged in self concocted devotional service cannot be accepted. In India, there are various professional communities known as Aula, Vaula, Karta Bhaja, Neda, Daravesha, Snai, Atibadi, Chudadhari, and Gauranga Nagari. A member of the Ventur Goswami Society or the caste called Goswami cannot be accepted as a descendant of the six original Goswamis. Nor can so called devotees who manufacture songs about Lord Chaitanya, nor those who are professional priests or paid reciters be accepted. One who does not follow the principles of Pancharatra, or one who is an impersonalist or addicted to sex life, cannot be compared with those who have dedicated their lives to the service of Krishna. A pure devotee who is always engaged in Krishna consciousness can sacrifice everything for the service of the Lord. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, and the spiritual master, or a person who is following the principles of householder life, as well as one following the principles of the renounced life in the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is a devotee and cannot be compared to professional men. When one is free from all material contaminations, any one of the relationships with Krishna is transcendentally relishable. Unfortunately, those who are inexperienced in the transcendental science cannot appreciate the different relationships with the Supreme Lord. They think that all such relationships arise from Maya. Chaitanya Charitamrita states that earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the five gross elements, are developed from subtle forms to grosser forms. For example, sound is found in ether, but in air there is sound and touch. When fire is added, there is sound, touch, and form as well. When water is added, there is sound, touch, form, and taste. And when earth is added, there is sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Just as various characteristics develop in the progression from, from ether down to earth, so the five characteristics of devotion develop and are all found in the relationship of conjugal love. Thus, the relationship with Krishna in conjugal love is accepted as the highest perfectional stage of love of God. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 82, verse 44, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the life of every living entity. Indeed, the Lord informed the damsels of Raja that their love for Him was the only cause of their achieving His association. It is said that Lord Krishna, in relation with his devotees, accepts all kinds of devotional service according to the aptitude of the devotee. In this way, Krishna reciprocates to a devotee's needs. If one wants a relationship with Krishna as master and servant, Krishna plays the part of the perfect master. For one who wants Krishna as a son in the parental relationship, Krishna plays the part of a perfect son. Similarly, if a devotee wants to worship Krishna in conjugal love, Krishna plays the part of a husband or paramour perfectly. However, Krishna himself has admitted that his loving relationship with the damsels of Raja in conjugal love is the highest perfectional stage. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 32, verse 22, Krishna told the gopis, Na parayeham niravadya samyojam स्वसाधु कृत्यम विबुधायुषापि च विदुया विबुधायुषापि वह या मा भजन दुर्जय गेह शृंखलाः संवृश्य तद्वह प्रतियातु साधुना. Your relationship with me is completely transcendental, and it is not possible for me to offer anything in exchange for your love, even after many births. You have been able to give up all attachment for material enjoyment, and you have searched after me. Since I am unable to repay your love, you have to be pleased with your own activities. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj has remarked that there is a class of common men who claim that anyone and everyone can worship the Supreme Lord according to his own invented mode of worship and still attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They claim that one can approach the Supreme Lord either through fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, meditation, or austerity, and that any of the methods will succeed. They claim that one can accept many different paths and still reach the same place. And they maintain that the Supreme Absolute Truth may be worshipped either as the goddess Kali or goddess Durga, or Lord Shiva, Ganesha, Rama, Hari, or Brahma. In short, they maintain that it does not matter how the absolute truth is addressed, for all names are one and the same. They give the example of a man with many names. If he is called by any of those names, he will answer. Such views may be very pleasing to an ordinary person, but they are full of misconceptions. One who worships the demigods motivated by material lust cannot attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one worships the demigods, the external energy of the Lord can award some results, but this is not to say that one can attain the Supreme Lord by such worship. Indeed, their worship is discouraged in Bhagavad Gita. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavatyalpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 23. Thus, the Supreme Lord awards the benediction of his association. Thus, the Supreme Lord awards the benediction of his association only to those who worship him and not to those who worship the demigods. It is not a fact that everyone and anyone can reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead by worshipping material demigods. It is therefore surprising that a man can imagine that he will become perfect by worshipping the demigods. The results of devotional service rendered in full Krishna consciousness cannot be compared to the results of demigod worship, fruitive activity, or mental speculation. By the results of fruitive activities, one can either go to the heavenly planets or to the hellish ones. Thus ends chapter 29 of Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, entitled Pure Love for Krishna. Now we shall be reading the next chapter, chapter 30, entitled The Transcendental Pastimes of Radha and Krishna. The difference between executing ordinary religious activities and devotional service is very great. By executing religious rituals, one can achieve economic development, sense gratification, or liberation, that is, merging into the existence of the Supreme. But the results of transcendental devotional service are completely different from such temporary benefits. Devotional service of the Lord is evergreen and it is increasingly transcendentally pleasing. Thus, there is a gulf of difference between the results derived from devotional service and those derived from religious rituals. The great spiritual energy known as Jadadhishta, Adh- Jadadhisthata, Jadadhishthatri, Jada Adhishtatri, or Mahamaya, the superintendent of the material world, and the material departmental directors, the demigods, as well as the products of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, are but perverted reflections of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. The demigods are actually order carriers of the Supreme Lord, and they help manage the material creation. In Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the workings of the supremely powerful superintendent, Durga, are but shadowy indications of the workings of the Supreme Lord. The sun works just like the eye of the Supreme Lord, and Brahma works just as the reflected light of the Supreme Lord. Thus, all the demigods, as well as the external energy herself, Durga Devi, and all the different departmental directors are but servants of the Supreme Lord in the material world. In the spiritual world, there is another energy, the superior spiritual energy or internal energy, which acts under the direction of Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya is the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. She also works under the Lord's direction, but she works in the spiritual world. When the living entity puts himself under the direction of Yoga Maya instead of Mahamaya, he gradually becomes a devotee of Krishna. Yet, those who are after material opulence and material happiness place themselves under the care of the material energy Mahamaya or under the care of material demigods like Lord Shiva and others. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is found that when the gopis of Vrindavan desired Krishna as their husband, they prayed to the spiritual energy Yogamaya for the fulfillment of their desire. In the Saptashati, it is found that King Suratha and a merchant named Samadhi worshipped Mahamaya for material opulence. Thus, one should not mistakenly equalize Yogamaya and Mahamaya. Because the Lord is on the absolute platform, there is no difference between the holy name of the Lord and the Supreme Lord Himself. There are different names for the Supreme Lord, and these names have different purposes and meanings. For instance, he is known as Paramatma, the super soul, Brahman, the supreme absolute, Srishtikarta, the creator, Narayana, the transcendental Lord, Rukmini Ramana, the husband of Rukmini, Gopinatha, the enjoyer of the gopis, and Krishna. In this way, the Lord has different names, and these names indicate different functions. The aspect of the Supreme Lord as the Creator is different from the aspect of the Lord as Narayana. Some of the names of the Lord as the Creator are conceived by materialistic men. One cannot fully realize the essence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by understanding the name of the Creator because this material creation is a function of the external energy of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the conception of God as the Creator includes only the external feature. Similarly, when we call the Supreme Lord Brahman, we cannot have any understanding of the six opulences of the Supreme Lord. In Brahman realization, the six opulences are not realized in full. Therefore, Brahman realization is not complete understanding of the Supreme Lord. Neither is Paramatma realization of the Super Soul, full realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for the all pervading nature of the Supreme Lord is but a partial representation of his opulence. Even the transcendental relationship experienced by a devotee of Narayana in Vaikuntha is incomplete in that it is not realization of a relationship with Krishna in Goloka Vrindavana. The devotees of Krishna do not relish devotional service to Narayana because devotional service to Krishna is so attractive that Krishna's devotees do not desire to worship any other form. Thus, the gopis of Vrindavan do not like to see Krishna as the husband of Rukmini, nor do they address him as Rukmini Ramana. In Vrindavan, Krishna is addressed as Radha Krishna or Krishna, the property of Radharani. Although the husband of Radharani, sorry, although the husband of Rukmini and Radha's Krishna are on the same level in the ordinary sense, still in the spiritual world, the names indicate different understandings of various aspects of Krishna's transcendental personality. If one equalizes Rukmini Ramana, Radha Ramana, Narayana, or any other name of the Supreme Lord, he commits the fault of overlapping tastes, which is technically called rasabhasa. Those who are expert devotees do not accept such amalgamations, which are against the conclusions of pure devotional service. Although Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, embodies all super excellence and beauty, when he is amongst the damsels of Braja, he is known as Gopi Janavallabha. The devotees cannot relish the beauty of the Supreme Lord more than the damsels of Braja. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 33, verse 7, it is confirmed that although Krishna, the son of Devaki, is the last word in super excellence and beauty, when he is amongst the gopis, it appears that he is a sublime jewel set amongst divine golden craftsmanship. Although Lord Chaitanya accepted this as the highest realization of the Supreme Lord as conjugal lover, he nonetheless requested Ramananda Raya to proceed further. Upon hearing this request, Ramananda Raya remarked that this was the first time that he had been asked to go further than the gopis in an attempt to understand Krishna. There is certainly transcendental intimacy between the damsels of Raja and Krishna, Ramananda pointed out, but out of all the relationships, the relationship between Radharani and Krishna in conjugal love is the most perfect. No common man can understand the ecstasy of transcendental love between Radharani and Krishna, nor can he understand the transcendental flavor of the transcendental love between Krishna and the gopis. Yet, if one tries to follow in the footsteps of the gopis, he may become situated in the highest stage of transcendental love. Thus, one who wants to be elevated to the transcendental stage of perfection should follow in the footsteps of the damsels of Raja as an assistant maidservant of the gopis. Lord Chaitanya exhibited the mode of Srimati Radharani when she was contacted from Dwaraka by Sri Krishna. Such transcendental love is not possible for any common man. Therefore, one should not imitate the highest perfectional stage exhibited by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If, however, one desires to be in that association, he may follow in the footsteps of the gopis. In the Padma Purana, it is stated that just as Radharani is dear to Krishna, similarly the Kunda known as Radha Kunda is also very dear to him. Radharani is the only gopi who is dearer to Krishna than all the other gopis. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13, verse 28, it is also stated that Radharani and the gopis render the highest perfectional loving service to the Lord, and that the Lord is so pleased with them that he does not wish to leave the company of Srimati Radharani. When Lord Chaitanya heard Ramananda Raya speak of the loving affairs between Krishna and Radharani, he said, "Please go further, go on and on." The Lord also said that he was enjoying with great relish the descriptions of the loving affairs between Krishna and the gopis. "It is as if a river of nectar is flowing from your lips," he said. Ramananda Raya continued to point out that when Krishna danced amongst the gopis, he thought, "I am not giving any special attention to Radharani." Because amongst the other gopis, Radharani was not so much an object of special love. Krishna stole her away from the area of the rasa dance and showed her special favor. After explaining this to Lord Chaitanya, Ramananda Raya said, "Now let us relish the transcendental loving affairs between Krishna and Radha. These have no comparison in this material world." Ramananda Raya thus continued his descriptions. During one performance of the Rasa dance, Radharani suddenly left the area as if she were angry that no special attention was being shown her. Krishna was desirous of seeing Radharani in order to fulfill the purpose of the Rasa dance, but not seeing Radharani there, he became very sorrowful and went to search her out. In Gita Govinda, there is a verse which states that the enemy of Kamsa, Krishna, also wanted to be entangled in love affairs with women and thus simply took Radharani away and left the company of the other damsels of Raja. Krishna was very much afflicted by Radharani's absence and, being thus mentally distressed, began to search her out along the banks of the Yamuna. Failing to find her, he entered the bushes of Vrindavan and began to lament. Ramananda Raya pointed out that when one discusses the purport of these two special verses of Gita Govinda 3.1 and 2, he can relish the highest nectar of Krishna's and Radha's loving affairs. Although there were many gopis to dance with Krishna, Krishna especially wanted to dance with Radharani. In the Rasa dance, Krishna expanded himself and placed himself between every two gopis, but he was especially present with Radharani. However, Radharani was not pleased with Krishna's behavior. As described in Ujjvala Neelamani, the path of loving affairs is just like the movement of a snake. Amongst young lovers, there are two kinds of mentality, causeless and causal. Thus, when Radharani left the area of the rasa dance out of anger at not receiving special treatment, Krishna became very sorrowful to see her absent. The perfection of the rasa dance was considered to be complete due to Radharani's presence, and in her absence, Krishna considered the dance to be disrupted. Therefore, he left the arena to search her out. When he could not find Radharani after wandering in several places, he became very distressed. Thus, it is understood that Krishna could not enjoy his pleasure potency even in the midst of all the gopis. But in the presence of Radharani, he was satisfied. When this transcendental love between Radharani and Krishna was described by Ramananda Raya, Lord Chaitanya admitted, "I came to you to understand the transcendental loving affairs between Krishna and Radha. And now I am very satisfied, and you have described them so nicely. I can understand from your version that this is the highest loving state between Krishna and Radha. Yet Lord Chaitanya still requested Ramananda Raya to explain something more. What are the transcendental features of Krishna and Radharani? And what are the transcendental features of the reciprocation of their feelings? And what is the love between them? If you kindly describe all this to me, I will be very much obliged. But for you, no one can describe such things. I do not know anything, Ramananda Raya replied in all humility. I am simply saying what you are causing me to say. I know that you are Krishna himself, yet you are relishing hearing about Krishna from me. Therefore, please excuse me for my faulty expression. I am just trying to express whatever you are causing me to express. I am a Mayavadi sannyasi, Lord Chaitanya protested. I have no knowledge of the transcendental features of devotional service. By the greatness of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, my mind has become clear, and I am now trying to understand the nature of devotional service to Lord Krishna. Bhattacharya recommended that I see you in order to understand Krishna. Indeed, he said that Ramananda Raya is the only person who knows something about love of Krishna. Therefore, I have come to you upon the recommendation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Please, then, do not hesitate to relate, please then do not hesitate to relate to me all the confidential affairs between Radha and Krishna. In this way, Lord Chaitanya actually took the subordinate position before Ramananda Raya. This has very great significance. If one is serious about understanding the transcendental nature of Krishna, he should approach a person who is actually enriched with Krishna consciousness. One should not be proud of his material birth, material opulence, material education, and beauty, and with these things try to conquer the mind of an advanced student of Krishna consciousness. One who thus goes to a Krishna conscious person thinks that he would be favorably induced, is deluded about this science. One should approach a Krishna conscious person with all humility and put relevant questions to him. If one goes to challenge him, such a highly elevated Krishna conscious person would not be available for any service. A challenging, puffed up person cannot gain anything from a Krishna conscious man. He would simply remain in material consciousness. Although Lord Chaitanya was born in a high Brahmana family and was situated in the highest perfectional stage of sannyasa, he nonetheless showed by his behavior that even an elevated person would not hesitate to take lessons from Ramananda Raya. Although Ramananda appeared as a householder situated in a social status beneath that of a Brahmana. Thus, Lord Chaitanya clearly showed that a sincere student never cares whether his spiritual master is born in a high Brahmana family or Kshatriya family, or whether he is a sannyasi, brahmachari, or whatever. Whoever can teach one about the science of Krishna is to be accepted as Guru. Thus ends chapter 13 of Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, entitled The Transcendental Pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Thank you very much for joining me today. We shall continue to read this book. We have just one or two more chapters remaining. We will read that in the coming sessions. Thank you very much. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Vishwa
Jai.
Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.